testing the smart way. So we have been working in Harvard Catalyst as a software test quality engineers. We have been testing many mobile devices in our span of our career, and we find that it's very challenging task to test and cover each and every smart devices. So we have actually implanted some smart strategies so that we can give a good coverage and can satisfy our end users with the upcoming time. And with this presentation, we are trying to elaborate what we exactly did in one of our projects, which is FPHS, that is Football Player Health Study, and how, as per the deadlines were very tight and close, we were able to optimize and prioritize our testing to meet the expectation of our expected users and alongside give a quality product. So we will be elaborating about all this. So with my presentation, the agendas which I will be covering are the types of mobile applications which are there in the market, the mobile testing challenges which we face while we are testing any mobile application, the key aspect of mobile application testing, thereafter following with the case study of FPHS, that is Football Player Health Study, in which the requirements and other things will be elaborated by Perminder, how the requirements are framed out, then how we identify the test dimensions, then how we implemented a high-level strategy so that we can cover all the devices, all the smart devices which are being used by our end users, and optimize our testing so that the deadlines can be met. Finally, we'll end up with what's in store. What is the future? As smart devices are acquiring the market with the rising trend, and there are watches and other things, so how we are going to test applications on the upcoming smart devices. So with my presentation, the type of mobile applications which are there in the market. All mobile applications will be categorized into three categories, that is native, hybrid and web mobile application. What is a native application? Initially in the old school, if we talk about, when the development has yet started, people used to develop applications specific to operating system. Specific to, for example, if I talk about Photoshop is having two different builds, one for Windows, one for Mac. So they used to develop native applications. Native application will support a single OS and it will only facilitate on a single OS. So these native applications are those applications which are defined or are built according to a particular platform. Moving forward, we thought that development effort is going in vain when we are developing a same product across other platforms. So we came up with hybrid applications. Hybrid applications are the applications which are supported on most of the platforms with no change in the code, and it actually saves our effort. But our testing effort doesn't save. We have to test that it's supporting all the supported operating system which it claims to. And there are other devices which are like mobile web devices, where we are testing the particular application running on a particular browser of a particular device, particular smart device. Like while we are running YouTube on our browser of any smartphone. So while testing any application on a smart device, the challenges which we face are the screen sizes. There are not many devices in the market with different types of screen sizes, different types of input modes. So covering each and every smart device is practically impossible. There are different types of operating systems in the market for the smart devices. The major ones are Windows, Apple, and Android, and BlackBerry. So most of the well-known applications run on all these operating systems. So we have to identify what all operating system we are going to support. We have to well inform our expected audience that we are supporting these all applications, these all operating systems for our applications, so that they are well aware of this. The other challenge is the network providers. There are more than 400 network providers that are in the market, and in network connectivity differs from place to place. If you're inside your house, your network connectivity is lesser than when you're outside and you're connected well to the towers. So whether our application is good enough to cope up with all these sort of changes in the network. So this is again a challenge which we have to make sure, and we should make sure that the end user is communicated well about the network limitation with our application in running in use. And the other challenge is the usability. As per, we are not aware which particular type of screen size our end user is using. So we have to get the maximum information of our application on a particular screen size, whether it's a smaller or a larger, and and the user could use it appropriately, so that the challenges are there, because we have to create an application in such a manner that it supports a smaller one, smaller display, larger display, and the end user is satisfied at the end of the day. Now moving on to the key aspect of mobile application testing. What are the key aspects? The major and the first thing which comes in my mind while we test any mobile application is testing the mobile application into a real device. When we talk about testing the application into a real device, we mean that we install the application into a real device and we perform the performance and functional testing of that particular application. By this, we can ensure 100% of test coverage, and we can also go through with positive and negative scenarios which we want to cover during our testing cycle. But practically, it's impossible to cover each and every real device, because even if we have a library, every day there is a new real device coming into the market, and we cannot exactly have all the real devices. We can have few of them, but if we are planning to have all the real devices, then it won't be cost effective. So there is another workaround for this, that is we have simulators. Simulators are the devices which actually replicate a real device, and we can perform major part of our testing with simulators. We can install the application, we can check few of the functionalities, but then too there are limitations, like we cannot check the notification, the pop-ups and other things using the simulators. Simulators are majorly free, so they give us a good coverage, and we can get a good satisfactory result with our testing. But then too, it cannot actually overtake the real device, because real device testing is something which cannot be overtaken by a simulator. Now the upcoming thing in the market is crowdsource testing. What is a crowdsource testing? Crowdsource testing is inviting professionals who are well equipped in testing under an umbrella with a controlled environment to test our application. This is done before our application goes live into the live world, so that we can uncover issues which our end user will face. When we are calling about like 10-20 people, 10-20 test professionals under a single umbrella, we are getting different type of personas. They have a different persona, they have a different type of doing things, which may uncover major bugs and risks which we will be encountering once the application is live, which may impact our reputation in the market. So to reduce all this, we have people are moving towards crowdsource testing, which is well known in the market now. Now with this case study of one of the live applications, FPHS, Football Player Health Study, I will be requesting Perminder to come and elaborate on the case study.
Thank you, Tukash. So let me go through a case study for FPHS. So before starting with the testing, what were the requirements? We have to test the application on within 3 weeks of development cycle, and then we have to test the application on multiple iOS and Android devices. We have to cover tablets as well as handsets, and we have to test only the functional testing. We have to do a functional testing, and content testing was not in scope. So before we start testing any application, what we have to figure out, we have to know the dimensions where we are focusing, what we are testing, and what is not in the scope of testing. So for FPHS, we have to do a functional testing along with the network testing, and performance testing was not in scope. So if we are talking about functional testing, we have to test functionality, we have to test the UI, we have to test usability, and of course, as we are developing for different mobile devices, smart devices, we have to verify that the application is pretty much responsive. And we have to perform all these things on different operating systems with different screen sizes and resolutions, and we have to validate what is the behavior of different networks on that application. So, what is the best way to test the application? There are 3 major aspects in which we can test applications on smart devices. As Tukash already discussed, we have real devices, we have emulation, simulation, or we can do a crowdsource. So which aspect is best fitted to our application? So for this we have used a MAST tool, mobile application strategy tool, in which what we have done is we have given a weightage to each dimension. Let me go through the tool. So if you see here, if we talk about functional testing, of course, this is the major area that we have to cover as we are giving new functionalities, there are changes in functionalities. If I have to give a weightage from 1 to 5 for functional testing to work it on different handsets, I will give it a weightage of 4. Now, if I have to do the same thing using simulation and emulation, of course, I can test different multiple handsets which are available in the market free of course, they are open source, but I cannot test all the functionalities, as some of the functionalities cannot be tested using simulation, like push messages, like pop-ups, opening links into the new windows or new tabs that cannot be tested. So if I have to give it a weightage from 1 to 5, I cannot give it more than 2. And if we are doing a crowdsourced testing, we can have multiple personas, but a large amount of cost is involved in it. We have to have a built-in tool with us in which we are getting the progress. We have to have a manual intervention who is taking care all of the integrations of the results. There should not be any duplicacy of the bugs as well. So if I have to weight it, I cannot weight it more than 2. Now, if you have to talk about interface testing on real devices, if we are using the real devices, we all know that there are n number of devices in the market we have to cover. So we cannot invest a large amount in buying those devices. So if I have to weight it, I cannot give a weightage more than 3. But if I am doing the same testing using emulation and simulation, as they are available in the market, they are open source, and I can test on any device that I want, then I can cover most of the devices. So I can give it a weightage of 4 from scale 1 to 5. But again, for doing it using crowdsource, I am not sure if some engineers are coming in the crowdsource, what devices they are getting, what areas they are covering. Are they going through all the screens of the application on their device? I'm not sure. So I cannot give it more than 1. So after giving weightage to each of the dimensions, I have taken example of these two. We have to give the weightage to all the dimensions from the list here. So if we give the weightage to all the dimensions, the tool will automatically do some calculations as per the logic and would help us in evaluating which is the best strategy, which is the best aspect to test the application. And here we have find the total which is for the real devices. So now we know that we are going to test the application using the real devices. So are we going to cover all the test cases on all the devices? Of course no, this will involve a lot of cost. So what we have done is we have prioritized our test cases. We have divided them into 3 sections in which we are doing the testing, a full pass, smoke test, and a spot check. In full pass, we are doing a complete execution of test cases on that particular device in which we are doing a full pass. And in the smoke test, what we have done is we have divided our test suite into different percentages, let's say 33% each. So we have 3 test suites. Now what we are doing is we are taking a group of smart devices with similar configuration, similar OS, similar screen size and resolution, and we are doing a smoke test on these devices. So we are picking 3 devices and executing 3 different smoke test suites on these. So we are doing a 100% pass on different devices, but the coverage is 100% as the devices are similar in configurations. And we have to do this on multiple devices with different OS, screen sizes and resolutions. So what all devices should be taken into consideration? That can be defined by our own experience and the past analysis of the data. And of course, what devices are mostly used in the market, what OS currently is in the market. So, from our past analysis, from the past data, we have found that functional issues are most OS dependent and rather than on the device size or screen resolution. Whereas user interface issues are more specific to device size and screen resolution rather than the operating systems. And if we look at the data from the market for Apple devices, from the graph we can see that most of the applications are used by the users on iPhone 5s, then iPhone 5, iPad mini and multiple combinations of iPads and iPhones. So while making a strategy, we have to take these points into consideration that we are giving a full coverage as per the usage by our users, what all users are using. And if we talk about Android devices, we can divide them into 4 different categories with small size, normal size, large and extra large. And from the graph you can see that most of the users, 83% users are using the normal screen Android devices. But if you look at the resolution, what they are using, the density, you can see that 40% of the users are using high DPI devices. So, for making our strategy, we have to take this into considerations that we have to do most of the executions on normal size devices with high DPI resolution. Now, what about operating systems? Are we going to cover all the operating systems? So, if we look upon the data, we can see that most of the users, 82% of them are using iOS 8, which is the most recent operating systems, while 16% are using iOS 7 and 2% are still using native iOS. So we have to take this into consideration. So while we are making our strategy, most of the testing should be on iOS 8 and then on iOS 7. And for Android devices, the data is pretty much different. The latest Android is Lollipop, but the ratio is divided evenly into Jelly Bean, KitKat and Lollipop. So we have to test on multiple devices keeping in mind that Jelly Bean, KitKat and Lollipop, all the OS are covered. So based on the data from MAST tool, from these graphs from the market analysis, we have come up with multiple compatibility matrices which are optimized in such a way that will help us in doing a full coverage in shorter period of time on multiple devices. Now, if we talk about iOS tablets, what we have done is we have divided them into 2 categories with different screen sizes. Here is screen sizes ranging from 8 to 10 inches and there are screen sizes with 10 inches. And we are doing a full pass on one device from each of the category that will help us in covering all the screen sizes, iOS 8 and multiple screen resolutions. Now what about iOS 7? As we have earlier seen that there are less number of users using iOS 7. So we are doing a couple of smoke tests on different iOS 7 on different screen sizes. That will help us in covering most of our cases on multiple devices using iOS 7 and then a couple of spot checks as well. So, and if we talk about Android handsets, there are n number of devices. So we cannot cover each and every one, but we can cover at least similar devices that are there in the market. So we have categorized them as per the operating system, Lollipop, Jelly Bean and KitKat, and we have divided the mobile devices as per the screen sizes ranging from 4 inches to 6 inches, and of course the screen resolution will be taken into consideration. So now what we are doing, again we are doing a full pass on each device from each category and then a couple of spot checks from each category and then spot checks as well, smoke testing. Now by doing this, what we are achieving? We are covering at least 2 times a full coverage on multiple devices that help us in achieving a good amount of coverage in shorter interval of time. we don't have to spend a large amount of time in testing on all the devices, but by these matrices, by these configurations, we are making sure that the testing has been done on each screen resolution, on each screen size, on all the operating systems that are currently used in the market. So we are not just reducing the efforts. The main thing that is reducing is the cost involved in it. So we have reduced, think about the scenario if we are doing a full pass on the complete matrix. And now we are doing a small portion of pass, but coverage is pretty much full. So reducing the cost is pretty much effective here. So what's next? We have strategized everything. We have strategized how to test on the smart devices, what should be taken into consideration, how should we approach it, how to utilize our past experience, the data from the market. What's next? As we have seen that multiple devices are coming into market. Wearable devices are there, augmented reality. So now we have to think in this direction, how we can strategize, how we can use the same strategy to optimize our test plan for these devices so that we can cover a full coverage of the test plan on all the devices that are there in the market. And of course, we don't have to do it on all the devices, but how we can optimize it and reduce our efforts and the cost involved. Thank you. Any questions? Yep.
Are you doing anything for automation?
Yes.
How are you automating some of these?
Yes. These are the test cases. This is the strategy.
Right.
What we are doing. We have a set of test automation, the basics tests that should be run, and we can run it on different devices. As we have another session by Ramandeep, he discussed how he is trivializing the framework that we have created in-house, and we are leveraging it to test these things on multiple devices and of course on the browsers as well.
So this is the API you were referring to in the last session?
Yes.
So we have a bunch of tools which we use in our framework, combining together with a bunch of other technologies to be able to do automation of mobile apps as well as the web on mobile devices.
Any more questions? Yeah.
So, with the emergence of voice over IP on campus, that's going to be coming through. I know that the Harvard Phone office is doing testing on Jabber as something. Is that something that you guys are also involved in? Are you doing testing on that as well? Are you consulting with you?
On Jabber?
Jabber?
No.
So far through Harvard Campus, I think we are not doing it.
No, not yet.
We did something similar in one of our old organizations with an application called SkyTab. SOCO. Yeah. And it's a multimedia video conferencing and voice conferencing platform. It's pretty much like Skype, but it enables virtual teams to work together. The way we did it was more of manual testing versus automation.
But in Harvard campus, we are not doing these things.
But we can